always believed that a human being can be defined by his or her openness to gratitude. Someone who has none, something is wrong with that person. I believe in gratitude as a Jew, because in our tradition, the first thing we do in the morning when we get up, we recite simply a prayer of gratitude to God for make us realize that we are still alive. Listening tonight to all these extraordinary words about my work, I wonder whether gratitude is enough. Maybe I should compose a poem or sing a song. It is more than rewarding. Often, my wife, the love of my life, and I always discuss when I have to travel somewhere. She said, look, you are getting older. She doesn't say old. And maybe you should stop. It's enough. And I make her realize that it's never enough. And now a story and a poem. The poem was written by a very, very great Israeli author called Uri Tzvi Grimberg. And the poem is about, in Hebrew, Nas Sipur al-Nar Yerushalmi. This is the story about a Jerusalemite boy who one day turned to his mother and said, Mother, I want to go to Rome. And the mother says, what? You are in Jerusalem. Why do you want to go to Rome? Mother, I want to learn something about the Roman culture. And she, in the beginning, refused, but then she gave in. But she said to him, look, my son, you go to Rome. Do you know anybody there? No. What will you do in the evening? He said, I don't know. I will go into the field and lie down and sleep. And she said, okay. But she said, one thing I want you to take from me, a pillow. And when you will lie down to sleep, you will have at least a pillow under your head. He did. Every day, left Rome, went to the fields, went to sleep, pillow. One night, the pillow caught fire. That night, the Temple of Jerusalem went up in flames. Can we live like that? That an event that takes place thousands of miles away has such an effect on us that the pillow catches fire. That, I believe, is what the memory of the fire is doing to all of us. It makes us aware of all those who need us, all those who need maybe our words, and occasionally our silence, but I mean silence in the mystical sense, not in the pragmatic sense. And silence is forbidden. What can we do with our memories unless these memories help others in their lives, in their endeavors? There is so much to remember that sometimes we suffer. Hegel spoke about the excess of knowledge. We have another problem, the excess of memory. It is simply too much. Because I remember in the very beginning, and we have here, by the way, a man whose name should be remembered, Mark Talisman. He was the vice chairman when I was chairman. And I remember we spoke about it. Whom do we remember? Naturally, first the Jews. Naturally, the Jews, they were victims, 6 million Jews. But we cannot limit that memory, which means, what do we say? I came out with a formula that not all victims were Jewish, but all Jews were victims. So that means, as Jews, because we remember our Jewish tragedy, we make it more universal. That is the definition almost of our Jewishness. The more Jewish the Jew, the more universal the message. And we worked on it here. And then we said, okay, we remember the suffering, we remember the fire. But what about the other side? What did those who survived do with their survival? Their message is not a message of despair. It is a message of hope. We taught the world how to build on the ruins. And therefore, among the priorities that we had for this project was actually to give the survivors their place of honor in our society. Whatever we could, always for survivors first. Not only because what they could say, no one else had the authority to say, but also because they, as human beings, as fathers, grandfathers, had something to say again, that it is almost impossible not to listen to them. And by the way, what Mark tells me now, for instance, that the survivors, there are, of course, many have done very well. And the fact is, what they have done among you, what they have done here in the museum, the role of the survivors, not only morally, but also financially, is extraordinary. But there are survivors today who are still living in poverty. And I believe that we in this museum, by the way, should even pay attention to that and do whatever we can to help them. And naturally, more than anyone else, we must feel empathy with those who suffer today in Rwanda, in Darfur, in Cambodia. I've addressed the General Assembly some 10 years ago or more. I gave my address the title, Will the World Ever Learn? And I came out with a very sad answer, no, because it hasn't learned then. Had the world learned, there would have been no Rwanda, and no Darfur, and no genocide, and no mass murder. Hasn't learned. Otherwise, there would be no anti-Semitism today. Anti-Semitism is the most irrational, absurd emotion that one can have. Somewhere, anywhere, there is someone who hates me, although he or she never met me. He or she hated me before I was born. And here it is, still going on in certain places. But then, because of our experience, we must feel, and we have felt, those who suffer today of all kinds of diseases. Take children. When you spoke about my little sister, it's true. I cannot speak without shedding tears. Because of that, my major preoccupation are the children in the world. Whenever I espoused a human rights cause, it always had to do with children. Every minute that we spent here tonight, somewhere on this planet, a child dies of hunger, of disease, of violence, or of indifference. Life is not made of years. Life is made of moments. Sarah, you call it transformative moments. I simply say moments. At the end of my life, when I come to heaven, and there will be a scale with my good deeds, my other deeds. It's not my years that will be on the scale, but the moments. Some are good, glorious. Others are not. When I think of my life in this project, most of that experience was rewarding. Every moment has its weight, has its meaning, and has left its legacy here in this extraordinary experience, which the museum is for anyone who enters it. I remember the inauguration, what President Clinton mentioned, when I turned to him. And I said, he must do something. That was Clinton then later on television said that, he said, we were dealing, he said, together at a conference about the role of the citizen. And he simply said, you want to know what a simple citizen can do? A simple citizen can change America's policy. And he turned to me, he said, he did it. What we can do with memory, we really can change the world. And so, for these moments, and for your kindness, and for all the commitment to remembrance, which is the noblest endeavor a human being can undertake, simply to remember the dead. My God, just to remember the dead. To forget the dead would mean not only to betray them, but to give them a second death, to kill them again. We couldn't prevent the first death, but the second one we can, and therefore we must. And so, whenever we deal with memory, you should think that the pillow under your head is burning.